Hello, and welcome to this video. This will be a tips, tricks, general concept for Sid Meier's Railroads. This does assume some general knowledge of the game, so if you haven't played this game, I'd recommend go procuring it somehow, firing it up, and seeing if you like it. It's super fun and casual, and generally just a really fun game to play. So if you do end up liking it and want to learn some more advanced tricks, then feel free to come back to this video anytime. This video is centered around a speedrunning perspective. There are various categories and challenges revolving around buying out rival competitors, completing different objectives, and this is to help make you more efficient in any of those endeavors. We're going to cover 7 different categories here today, starting with the simplest and moving up from there, going 1 through 7. I'll have chapters in the video on YouTube, so if you already know something that I start talking about, you can easily skip to the next one. That being said, I don't exactly have a long script for this. I'm kind of just going off the cuff with these 7 little tips that I've got written down. So, we'll see how this goes. Hope you enjoy. So, I'm going to load into a game here on Hill Valley Rush, and we're going to get started. Tip number 1. Maybe the most important. It'll make your runs go literally twice as fast. Yeah, but when you load into a game, press G. It's the hotkey for this button right here, the game speed. So I pressed it already once. You can see now it's at double speed. Press it again, it's at half speed, and back to normal. So in normal speed land, you can tell here how quickly the trains go. I build a train, bring some passengers and mail over here. Not very fast compared to how fast it could be. Look how slow it is. Ugh, killing me. Boom, double speed, beautiful. The game is timed in real time, so I'm obviously kind of being a bit sarcastic on tip number 1 here, but in reality I have seen people ask, or I guess theorize that certain videos are doctored in some way, shape, or form. They're not. We're just playing at double speed because this game is timed in real time. So, if you didn't know, press G, twice as fast. First thing you do the instant the game loads. Number 2, another general time save thing. As you'll notice here, this train is going back and forth as I'm, kind of moving around the map. The train keeps going. I could build more tracks. The train keeps moving. As I'm doing all this, I could build depots. I could even open these screens over here. You can kind of see and hear in the background the game is going by the fact that the money was moving here and this train is going back and forth. So starting right here, I open a menu, stay there for a little bit while the train moved. Okay, so the game is running in the background while you're in all of these menus or building tracks. The game does not run if you are in this screen, the build train screen. So you can tell from the silence in the background, nothing is happening. So if you're using this to, kind of plan your most efficient routes for your trains, that's all good and fun. Also, if you're, not the fastest at clicking on cars, you might think that's not a big deal. It actually adds up really fast. If you're building 10 trains and you take 15, 20 seconds on each one of those, we're up to a couple minutes now of dead time where the game's not progressing. You're not making money. You're not advancing towards your next objectives. Avoid this screen as much as possible, and especially if you're using it to be a large map and kind of see where things are laid out, make that as fast as you can possibly potentially make it. Or better yet, just scroll on the map here in this view. You can still kind of see it. All the same. You can use this to view the goods, resources, all that good stuff. And the game progresses while you're here. So, stay off that screen. That screen is lava. The other screen that does have the same effect is the upgrade train screen. So if you're upgrading your trains, pick a different engine, right? This screen here. This screen also has the same effect. It does not run the game in the background while it's up. So try to spend as little time here as possible. You don't spend a lot of time on the screen, but if you are going to go into it to upgrade your train, try to do it quickly and press the select as fast as you can. Yeah, so that's that. Tip number 3, money management. Okay, early in the game, and I'm actually going to restart this game to kind of demonstrate this here. Early in the game, you're building 1 or 2 tracks to try to get your early cash flow going. And one thing I wanted to point out was that when you're building the tracks and the depots, so in this case, I'm just going to build a couple tracks here, build a depot over here, build this track over to this little farm, build a depot here. Just for fun, I'm going to try to build a third track, get to the city. Man, just have a really killer start here. Um, and we can see, now right now, if I build a depot, it'll cost me $50,000. I'll be down to $7,000 left. And you might think, well, hey, I have not built any of my tracks yet. So if I build this depot, I'm down to 7,000 bucks. I haven't built any trains yet. Sorry. If I built my depot, I'm down to 7,000 bucks. I can't afford any of these trains. Look how expensive these are. $60,000 right here. Even the cheapest one. The cheapest one, 20,000 bucks. I can't do that. Well, thankfully, you can go into debt. And you can do that for trains. And as far as I know, buying trains is the only thing you can go negative money for. You cannot do it to build tracks or depots. You cannot do it to buy stocks or bid on industries or anything else except for building trains. So in this case, at the beginning of the game, especially early on in the game, build all of your tracks and depots as best you can, all the way down to basically $0. So in this case, I'm going down to $7,000, right? And then build all your trains. Okay, trains going here, trains going here, and let's do, some passengers and mail here. I built 3 trains there. We have a negative 173,000. Now that's not great, right? But I now have 3 sources of income that are going to start here as soon as I unpause. And that is great. Had I just built one of these tracks and 1 train, I might not have been able to build anything else. I definitely wouldn't have been able to build all 3 of these. And so it is totally worth it to go negative to build your first couple trains. You're going to have to build those trains anyways. It's not like they get more expensive throughout time. You may as well build them as quick as you can. So get all of your tracks out of the way as fast as you can and then go into debt on your first trains. Trust me, you'll be out of debt quickly. I'm already in the positive. Look at that. How quick was that? I'm not waiting on a single train. I got 3 of them. This is great. The second half of money management that I wanted to mention involves buying stocks. Now, I'm not going to set up a scenario where I'm buying stocks here, but let's take a quick look and I'll pause the game to stop the background noise here for a second. So when you go to buy out your competitors, if you're doing that as part of this game, the way you do it is you buy all of their unpurchased stocks. I'll pull up the other screen. It's a little easier to see potentially. You buy all of their unpurchased stocks, and the price for their stock will change based off how well their company is doing and how many other stocks have already been bought. But once you buy out all of the unpurchased stocks, so in this case, it would show 5 blue tickets here and 5 red tickets if I were to buy out Mr. George Hudson. Then you can, in one fell swoop, buy the remaining unbought stocks for double their price, and at that point you can liquidate your opponent. That's how you basically beat your competitors, is you buy all of their stocks and liquidate them. Now, my recommendation would be to always work on purchasing your strongest opponent first. And that's not for some sort of like mental philosophy to get over the hump quicker, or get the hard stuff out of the way. While that may be relevant to your personal mental state or philosophies, it actually has a reason buried in how the game works, and that is that the competitors will oftentimes buy stocks of the other AIs that you have competing against here. So in this case, red could buy some green stock, green could buy some orange, vice versa. They could even buy some of yours, not that you're overly worried about that, because you're better than them anyways, so they're not going to ever buy you out. But they may buy some of the other AI's stocks. And the reason that's important is, let's set up a scenario in our heads here where I purchased the other 5 red stocks here, and my plan is to buy out red by buying these other 5 all in one fell swoop. Well, while I'm waiting for that cash to come in to get enough money to buy him out, if he's my strongest opponent, he probably has some cash on hand. Now, he might want to buy his own stocks. He can't, because we already bought the other half of them. But he could spend some money on green or orange stocks. That is super cool, because when we buy out red, we get the stocks in the other opponents that red had already purchased for free. You don't have to pay extra to acquire those stocks. And it also, importantly, does not increase the price of red in this instance to buy them out. So if by some magic miracle world red bought like the other 5 unbought green stocks and unbought orange stocks here, and then you bought out red, you would not only get all 10 red stocks, you'd get the extra 5 green and 5 orange for free. So try to encourage your opponents to buy each other's stocks, because then when you buy out and liquidate them, you get their stock for free, and it radically improves how quickly you can complete some of the objectives that involve buying out your opponents. Most really good runs are going to involve some matter of your opponents buying each other's stocks and then you getting them for free. So that is the other main tip for money management. Number 4, upgrading your depots to stations or terminals. I'm actually going to load up a game here. Just kind of a super simple early game to show you what I mean. So, first things first, when you build a depot, so you can see here, I've got my starting city of Wagner, and I built a track over here to Cabela. That's all I've done so far in this game, basically nothing. There's a couple different things that upgrading your depots can do. And the way you do that is click on the city, you'll click this little upgrade button, and you'll see right here, it starts as a depot, it's a depot, right? I can spend 100 grand to make it a station, and then if I do that, I can spend 150 to make it a terminal. And it kind of tells you some of the bonuses right here, as far as car load and unload speed, and increase to revenue for passengers in mail. The unwritten thing that it also does is it increases the number of tracks that you can have at that particular city and or city. It's only matters for cities. It does not apply to resources like this oil or this coal. So right now, if I try to build some more tracks, you can see I built an extra track there, and an extra track here. And these kind of gray, like concrete tracks, these mean that a train can stop here to drop off or pick up resources. So you'll see these next to all the industries and cities. Like this gray section means a train actually can stop there and do something productive. If I try to build a fourth one, you may notice that it stays this different texture here. It's not the concrete, it's more of the railroad ties going across. So this means the train can drive on this, but it can't actually stop and drop off anything. So if I build this piece of track over here to this oil, I click on the oil, I cannot bring that over here to the Cabello Depot. It's grayed out, blacked out, whatever it is. Can't do it. Big no-no. And that is because this is not a drop-off point. Now, if I connected this to any of these 3 tracks, it would work. The other thing I could do, though, instead of that, is spending $100,000. Voila! Look at that. How cool. Now we can add a 4th track. 4 is the maximum. You can never have more than 4 of these little drop-off tracks. But upgrading to a station should allow you to do that. And now if I go from oil, I can drop off in Cabela. How cool is that, right? So that's the first thing that upgrading a station, upgrading a depot to a station or a terminal does. Now I'm going to restart this here and show the other important things that it does. And again, it kind of mentions these in writing here, but I want to show you the true impact it has, because I think that's an underrated aspect of this game. So what I'm going to do, just without doing anything here, is I'm going to leave this as a depot. Okay, and I'm going to go from Wagner to Cabello with a train of 2 passengers, 1 mail. Okay, I'm going to give this pause right now. I'm going to write down on my other screen, which you can't see, but I'm writing down 303,000. Okay, because that's how much money I have right now before anything happens. So I'm going to unpause this and let the train go. See, it's taking all 3 of these, dropping them off. Okay, I now have 346,000. Right, that's pretty good. That's our baseline. $43,000 gain. Okay, for a trip of this length at this game time for 2 passengers and 1 mail. Okay, $43,000. Remember that baseline. Let's load this game up again. Now I'm going to make a train, the exact same train. I'm also going to spend $100,000 and upgrade it to a station. Just a station, not a terminal. Okay. Now I've got, I'll pause again. I've got 203, right? Because I spent an extra $100,000. But let's see how much profit we get from this train. 251. Okay. So an extra $8,000 on this one trip. Right. That was what? A 5-second trip, maybe? 5 to 10 seconds? I don't know what it was. You might be thinking, wow, I just spent $100,000 and only profited 5,000. But think how many trips this train is going to make over the course of a game. Okay? It's going to make a lot of trips. So you make that $5,000 back very quickly. And this is a very short track. This effect is actually amplified the longer your passengers and mail travel. When I say longer, I mean the farther distance they go. The effect of having a station or terminal is amplified even more. And again, terminal just makes this effect even greater. I'm not going to do the math here, but it basically should about somewhere between double and triple the revenue you're getting, or the bonus revenue you're getting, I should say. So, I mean, we've already made however many trips, what, a half dozen at least, while I've been talking here for a few sentences. You make that money back so fast. It's hugely underrated. If you start upgrading your depots to stations and terminals, especially the cities where you have mail and passengers going back and forth in the early game, your money will skyrocket early. I'm already up to $500,000 just from these little three innocent little cars going back and forth. Over $500,000 in like, what, a minute or two? Definitely not two. So, hugely underrated part of this game, from a financial standpoint, is upgrading those depots. The final piece of the the depots being upgraded to stations and terminals is the load and unload speed. Now, I didn't show you a ton of it when it wasn't upgraded yet. Now this is fully upgraded, so it's not great, but the fact that this train can show up here at this terminal, drop off its passengers and mail, and basically instantly turn around and get going, that does not happen for the base depots that are unupgraded. So, just another really important benefit, especially if you've got big trains, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars on them. If you're being dropped off at a terminal, you're going to see massive, massive benefits for the train just being faster to load and unload. Super, super underrated part, again, of upgrading these depots. So, all right, number 5, over halfway there. Thank you for sticking with me. So we're here at Wilding and Staley, and we're going to talk about track management. So, first thing I'm going to do is build a track over here. Nice and easy. Okay, so for track management, let's get a train going between these two. Great. Now, number 1 rule of track management: the best of your ability, keep a single train per track. Just don't have 2 trains on the same track. All it does is increase the chance they run into each other. It slows them down. We have routing set to easy so the trains don't break or anything like that, but boy howdy, it's inefficient. So, do everything in your power to keep these trains on separate tracks. See how I put them on the same track and this one's frozen now? Poor guy. What you should do in scenarios like this, build a second track. Now you can either connect these both to this middle point and let the trains kind of go in and out, or even better, just connect these 2 sections of track right to each other, like that. Now when I make a new track, or a new train I should say, the game is usually smart enough, see, to put it on the unused track. Now I can go over here and get rid of this poor train, put it out of its misery. Now I've got 2 trains going back and forth. I've doubled the throughput of these 2 cities. How cool is that? The other thing I'm going to do, as I mentioned, upgrade to a station and terminal. Get a lot more money. So, number 1 rule of track management: 1 train per track. Got it? Great. Now, for this next part, I need an opponent. So I think red is my closest one. Yeah. So we're going to go over towards red and use him as an example here. I might have to sell some stocks just to prove my point here in a second. Yep, let me sell some of my stocks. Wouldn't recommend that in a real game. Your stocks are very valuable late game, but for the demo purposes, we're going to sell it. So let's pretend that I would like to get from right here, my lovely little blue track here, over to this Hartsburg Energy Company. Now, I could build a bridge. Actually, I can't even build this bridge very well. It's so steep. The game hates it. I could try from back here, and that'll probably let me do it. That's expensive, and it's a really big hill, and it's just going to be rough. Nothing about this is good, right? Nothing about it's good. What you can do is this neat little glitch where you build right up next to it, and then basically build these tiny little sections that I messed up because I'm bad. And I'm going to try one more time, because that was not very good. So you build these tiny little sections. I'll do it over here, probably a little easier. And it just kind of lets you go straight through it. You build those small enough, it lets you go straight through this, and woo, now I'm connected to this oil. Your train will drive right through this with the cars. It won't notice the red track at all. It'll drive through it as it's just a normal piece of track. So it's kind of cheeky and corny, whatever, but it definitely helps a lot when you don't want to build tunnels or bridges over or under the opponent's track. Really helpful when they try to kind of box you out. There's a lot more kind of tricks and tips, I would say, around just making sure your tracks don't overlap, keeping them flat as best as possible. Another nice thing you can do, it doesn't really matter on this map because it's a very flat map, but you actually can press the plus and minus keys to raise or lower the track as you're building it, which may be helpful when the kind of the default track placement doesn't do what you want it to do. So, that said, that's going to wrap up our track management tips. Number 6, car management. Got a couple different things I want to talk about with the actual train cars, so delete these out here. The first thing I want to mention is in options, make sure this button right here, copy consist changes to following stops, is turned on. I promise you it's faster. Played it both ways, I promise you it's faster. What that does is when you are building a train, you put some passengers and mail here, for example, you click the second city, it's going to carry over these cars. That's super helpful, especially for passengers and mail, because you probably want those anyways, so it just saves you a few clicks, but that's not the important part. The important part, and you'll see this here really well in this kind of short trip. I'm going to pause this as soon as it gets here. Okay, so see where the engine is, right? The train engine is all the way down here. I've got 3 cars behind me. As soon as it is done unloading, it's actually going to flip around and the engine's going to be over here. So you're going to save, in this case, 3 car lengths of travel on every trip on both sides of the stop. So, right, so boom, instantly turns around. So this is really important to just keep the cars here. If we didn't do this, let's say we unloaded these and didn't want to bring back anything. Okay? See how much, longer that takes to unload the cars? And now we've got to load them up here. So slow, right? Now it goes over here, watch them disappear. Watch all the time it takes. And the train is all the way back here. It's doubly bad, okay? Now, for passengers and mail, you're never going to not want this, right? But let's pretend this is a resource, right? We've got these lovely cows coming to us right here. Now, I know this doesn't actually do anything with cows, but we're just going to use it to prove a point. Okay, we're going to see the same thing, right? It's going to load up all 4 cows, going to drop them off, and turn right back around and save itself a lot of travel time. Now, you might be saying, hey, I would like to have the highest max speed for my train, so I don't want to have those 4 cars on it. That's real bad. Well, what you'll notice is that the time to unload, or not unload, but like remove all of these cars is oftentimes way more than the slight gains you get by having a slightly higher top speed. Like, look how long this is taking. Oh my goodness. Arrgh. You just lost so much time, right? So, unless you have a massively long trip for your train, just keep the cars on it both ways. Okay? The other thing I wanted to mention is I found that usually 4 cars is about the correct number, regardless of what you're doing. If you're hauling resources, passengers, mail, finished good, raw materials, whatever it may be, 4 cars appears to be a pretty good sweet spot. if you look at some of these trains, right, 4 is a pretty good sweet spot for holding freight. They die off really fast after. I mean, they've started to die off by 4, but it's pretty good middle ground I've found. The other thing that is important to mention is it seems to hold pretty well with the rate that resources are refreshed. This is a bad example because it's really close and my cows aren't actually being dropped off here, so bad example. But you'll find a lot of the resources, if you put 4 cars on your train, then go drop them off at a city, by the time the train gets back, it's replenished about 4 cars worth. Not always the case, but it seems to be a pretty good average. So it's worth it just to put 4 on, unless you've got a very unique situation. Just put 4 on and don't think too much about it. You're gonna waste more time thinking about how to, you know, super optimize the number of cars on your train rather than just building the train, getting it out of the way, and getting the profit from that train. So. The last thing I want to mention with the trains and car management is the upgrades. So on the trains, you can obviously upgrade these engines as they come out. My recommendation is for any train where it says preferred cargo passenger, just skip it. The most valuable things in this game you're going to be hauling are things like coal, steel, automobiles, manufactured goods. Those are really the big money makers. And the passenger trains don't do great at hauling those big freight heavy things. So it's not worth your time and money to upgrade to the passengers in my experience. Anything that says preferred cargo freight, go ahead and buy it. It's going to be a pretty substantial upgrade to how quickly things get delivered. The one exception to that is early game. Let's say we start out here with the Grasshopper. It's a passenger train, right? And then the Norris or the American come out, right? Look at both of these. They're both way faster than this Grasshopper, even though they're also passengers. So go ahead and upgrade to passengers. Once you get a freight preferred train, don't upgrade it until you get the next freight preferred train. Just my recommendation. You can play with it if you want, but I'm about 95% confident that's the way to play. And we have reached the last tip. And for that, I'm going to probably load up that other game again, that early game. And we're going to talk about bullying. Now, in real life, I have been told, rightfully so, that bullying is bad. And that is true. However, this is a computer game, and your opponents are computers. And last I checked, they have not achieved sentience, and so bullying them is totally fine. Now, let's say you're in a scenario here where early game you've built all your tracks that you're going to build for the first couple minutes. You're just working on getting some revenue, and you had a little bit of cash left over. You look over at your green opponent here. You're thinking, man, he's got, I don't know, 3 or 4 cities really close. I'm worried that he's going to get off to a really good start. Well, you might be thinking, what can I do to stop that? And one thing you can do, again, not always the right play, but sometimes it is, and it's always fun. If you got enough money, just build a little train around him here. Kind of memeing with how many clicks I'm doing here, but you get the point, right? Bang. Look at this. He doesn't have a lot of room. Now, if you do this, at some point in the game, usually like 10 or 15 minutes in, they will finally figure out how to build a bridge over your track. But it basically shuts out the opponent for the entire game, and in this case, we'd be left playing effectively only against 2 opponents instead of 3. Really important in the game modes where you're trying to buy out your competitors. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I just saw you glitch through your opponent's tracks. Well, we're more advanced than these PCs. They don't know how to do the track glitch, so he's not going to be able to build from this green track here straight underneath my blue track. You won't be able to do it. So, this is kind of a fun way to like really hard shut down one of the computers. The other thing I would recommend, we'll call it soft bullying, is let's imagine a scenario where one of the opponents here, who is this? This is Red, right? Let's say Red had built out this oil going here to Wilding. Let's say maybe he had some lumber going here to Staley. He already kind of had that set up, and we're making our way down to this portion of the map to see if there's anything that we can build that'll be kind of a solid profit center. Now you might look and say, oh man, he's already built up all these, he's got the resources going, I don't want to have to share with this guy, I'm going to go elsewhere and just look for like an open part of the map. And that's okay, you can do that. But I will say it's definitely worth it very frequently to come in and build kind of the same tracks your opponents did. So again, let's say he had oil going here and lumber going here. I would just build a train taking oil to Wilding and taking wood to Staley. You're not going to make a lot of money, but what you are going to do is radically disrupt what the AI is trying to do. Because you're going to be taking a lot of their resources, and if you build your depots into stations and terminals, your trains will load and unload fast. Left with the scraps. Um, So again, you're not going to have like huge profit margins on those trains where you do this, but you're really going to set your opponents back a lot, and you'll notice their stock price will kind of start plateauing or sometimes even falling down because they're losing money on train maintenance. They're not making it back in revenue from the resources. So again, hard bullying. Really just kind of lock them out of the game. Rude, but effective. Soft bullying. If you see them building up a solid kind of resource profit center, go ahead and just start stealing from it. There's nothing saying you can't do that. Use the track glitch to kind of get through their tracks and, you know, slide through the map and steal everything they have. So, that being said, we have made it to the end. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope you had a little bit of fun. I hope you have a lot of fun playing this game, maybe trying out some of these tricks. I still love this game. I've been playing it for years. I remember playing it back when I was in middle school, and here we are. I'm not going to say how many years later, but definitely several. And I still love playing this game. It's a lot of fun. So, um, hope you enjoy it equally as much as I do. The last plug I want to make is. There is a glitch we have found that basically breaks the whole game, gives you millions of dollars within minutes. If you are interested in that, I have a video on it called the Single Gate Glitch Tutorial. Feel free to check that out as well. It's just kind of a fun little, I don't know, side way to just completely break the game if that interests you. It's not overly relevant to, legitimately trying to achieve objectives, but it's a fun thing to have in your back pocket if you're ever bored. So, with that said, thank you so much once again. I appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to leave comments. I'll put a link to our Railroads Discord as well as come visit us on speedrun.com. We're a pretty small group of folks playing this game, but the more the merrier. And if you start playing and having fun, we'd love to come hear what you have to say and see some of your runs. So, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.